Welcome everyone to our last meetup of the year. This is the 11th meetup of Romania Power BI and Modern Excel user group, where we have today the honor to have Bob Umlas as our special guest. Thank you, Bob, for your availability to present. And for our newest members, my name is Cristian Angel, and I will be your host today. We will go through some small introductory slides at the beginning. I'll announce the next meetups, and then Bob will show us a lot of tips and tricks that usually we never remember. This is the reason why we are recording the session and post it on YouTube afterwards. We'll also I'll present it at the right time, the raffle for our special sponsor, and I will say a few words a little bit later. Some organizational stuff at the beginning. Please make sure your mic is muted. Well, I made sure of this at the beginning. Lately, Teams is allowing me to mute everyone, so this is safe. But in order to ask questions for Bob, please use the chat. And in order to spot the questions easier, please use a Q in front of the questions. And please be advised that this meeting is recorded, so your name might appear on YouTube afterwards. Our next meetups will be in January with Nicola Ilic. We will have a Power BI session at the time. We are not decided yet. Nicola gave me a list of sessions, and I'm not sure what to pick from there, but we will decide until then. It will be interesting anyway. I would tend to go to data modeling, but we'll see. Maybe some performance, maybe some query folding. We'll see how it goes, but it will be on the next meetup will be on the 27th of January. And the next one, the 12th, actually the 13th one, will be with the first Romanian presenter, Cristian Prifti, who will do a session on custom functions magic on Power Query. I'm looking forward to see all of you at the next meetups too, so let's go through this one until then. As some of you know, but I'm announcing to everybody now, since August this year, we have a primary official sponsor, which is Enterprise DNA, which is sponsoring on each of our meetups 3 full annual Enterprise DNA membership licenses, plus 3 annual Analyst Hub memberships, total value of roughly $1,500. And these licenses are distributed with a raffle during and only for the attendees, the live meetup attendees. In order to participate in the raffle, please scan this QR code or write down the URL, the short URL. I will post a link anyway in the chat after Bob starts. And please fill up this form. I set up a flow to collect the data, put them in a SharePoint list. And then from there, we have a raffle, and we are using a Power BI report. Anyway, until then, again, thank you, Bob, for accepting our invitation. Let's start this meetup. Okay. For anybody who doesn't know Bob, he's the longest time awarded MVP for Excel. And he started his journey with the spreadsheet even before Excel was Excel, as we know it, since Macintosh, I think, right?
Yes.
Mr. Umlas was voted MVP from 1993 to 2018 for 25 consecutive years. Nobody else in the field was awarded that many times. And he has more than 300 articles published on subjects ranging from beginner to advanced macros and on tips, shortcuts, and general techniques using virtually all aspects of Excel. Thank you again, Bob, for accepting our invitation, and the stage is yours.
Great. Let's see here. Can you see this screen?
Yes, it's
Okay.
visible.
So, hi, as it says, I'm Bob Umlas, and many of the tips are from my book called This Isn't Excel, It's Magic. And you can find this book and other books of mine by typing Umlas, just my last name, into Amazon.com. So the first tip I'm going to show you is about showing names in the worksheet. So I have a range here called welcome. Nothing very special, and I'm actually going to reduce this to, let's say, 40%. So we can see the whole range. Oops. Try it again, zoom. So that's the range called welcome. And then there's another range called to. And there's a range called Excel and a range called tips and tricks. Now I'm at 40%, but if I had gone to 39% or less, then those range names will show up in the worksheet. Boom. That's pretty cool. So if you get a workbook from somebody or a worksheet from somebody, you can go to each sheet, zoom it to 39%, and see if you can find some errors, perhaps, like if something just clearly doesn't line up, it'll stand out this way. Just to prove it, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to name this range Christian. That's the name of that range, and there it is, it shows up. One cell references do not show up this way. Okay, next tip. I'm going to first show this about page setup demo. If I preview this sheet is landscape. It has a header. It has a footer. This thing's a little in the way, the date and time, and has row and column heading showing. Okay, so let's say that's what I want. On the next tab, I have some data, and if I print preview this, it's no settings at all. It's portrait and nothing else. What if I wanted that same page setup on this sheet as it's on this sheet? What I can do is I put those sheets in group mode. I can control click on the second tab so that page setup copies and needs page setup are in a group. The word group is also shown at the top. Anything I do in one sheet is done on all the sheets in the group, including just make a selection. I arbitrarily selected that, and it's selected here. If I do that and come back, it's selected. Anyway, while they're both that selected, or all worksheets selected, I just visit page setup. In page layout, I click on this dialog launcher for page setup, and I just click OK. And I'm pretty much done. If I right mouse click on this tab and go ungroup sheets, so back to normal, if I print preview this sheet, it hasn't taken on all those page setups. Landscape, the header and footer, and row and column heading showing. Back to this, I had some other shortcut things here. Control Shift and these keys turns this, or whatever selected, into this format. So Control Shift 1, which I'm doing now, changes it to numeric with 2 decimal places. Control Shift 2 is a time format. 3 is a date format. 4 is a currency. 5 is percent. Control Shift 6 is scientific. Control Shift tilde on the US keyboard, that's to the left of the number 1, is back to general format. Control Shift 7 puts a border around the selection. There you can see the light border. If I have multiple things selected, Control Shift 7 will put a border around them both. It's a light border, but it's still a border. And Control Shift minus will remove the border. So if I do all that, Control Shift minus, all the borders are gone. Control-Shift-8 and 9 are missing, and they don't do anything interesting. Okay, here I have something called Bob in the tab, later, 1. We'll get back to it later. All it has is 1, 2, 4 ones in it, nothing special. We'll come back to it. AutoSum. Let's say you have some data that looks like this, and you want to put the totals in here, and you want to put the totals in here. Probably most of you would do something like this. I could do Alt equals, and that puts in the suggested formula. And then if I do Alt equals again, it enters it. Or if I did Alt and hit the equal sign twice fast, it will just enter it. I can then double click the fill handle and then come here. I do Alt equals twice, it enters that, and then I drag it to the right. And that's the task, and it's done, and everything's fine. But let me show you a quicker way. I'm undoing everything. If I make this selection, I've included an extra column and an extra row, and I just do Alt equals once, or I can click the AutoSum tool just once, and it does everything. Pretty cool. Entering totals. Okay, on this tab, I get a bunch of data, and then a subtotal, and then a data and a subtotal. It's not a subtotal function; it's a subtotal, but it's done with the sum key, the sum function. All the way down, that's as far as I've gotten, and I want to put in the grand total. Where do you put the grand total in? I've seen this one many times. Equals B133 plus B120, etc. Done by equals this and a plus, and then a scroll and a this and a plus and a scroll, etc. I'm hitting escape. I've actually seen two rows worth of this kind of function. Now it works, but it could be error prone because you might skip one, or you might have clicked on the wrong cell. So let's look at a formula version. I'm going to show the formula by something called formula text, which shows the formula of the reference. And that way I can make it a little bigger. Let's do it all here. And I'll fill it down. So here's the sum if. The sum if the range A1 to A133 contains the word subtotal, add the corresponding values from B1 to B133. So that's clearly better. This next one is a sum product. Oops, the sum product. Now the sum product formula requires just a bunch of arrays, array 1, array 2, array 3, etc. But they all must be numeric. So I'm doing the first one, and then adds them up, multiplies them together and adds them up. So A1 to A133 equals subtotal. That's one array, and B1 to B133 is the other one. The n function is required because without it, I'm going to take off the n function and show you what happens, and then explain the n function. If I do that, I just get a 0. And that's because this is not true and false. I can do F9 to calculate that. I'm sorry, it's not numeric. I just get trues and falses. And the sum product requires numeric. The n function changes true to 1 and false to 0. So that works fine too. Here's another one. It's pretty much the same as the first one, except Excel found it for me. In other words, if I click in here and just do Alt equals, I get that. Excel found it. That's pretty cool. But the one I like the best is just this. Sum of B1 through B133. Add them all up and divide by 2. And how is that working? Well, let's go back to the top. These numbers total 456. That's what this is saying. So this number 456 is here and it's here. What about this 720? 720 is in that cell and it's there. So it's 2 sets of 720, 2 sets of 456, etc. So everything is there twice. Just add them up, divide by 2. Here's one. I want to get the total of these numbers, the average and the max. If I click total, and I go to auto sum, just double click it, it works fine. If I now go to average, you'll notice there's other functions in here, but if I do average, it includes the total. That's not going to be right. I don't want that, so I'd have to edit it. Or you can do this. I'm going to select these cells and then go to the auto sum and do average. Watch, put the right answer in there. It included, it reselected the total, which is unfortunate, but it did, but it put average of B2 to F2. Same again if I do max. I select the cells I want, go to auto sum, go down to max, and I put the right answer in here. And again, reselect the total. But I can now just double click this and have those results. Few miscellaneous things. Did you know that you could type a row column reference in the name box? Here's the name box. I could type like R3C5, row 3, column 5, and it selects row 3, column 5. You ever wonder what column 1000 is? You know, let's do row 1, column 1000. It's all, ALL. Anyway, interesting miscellaneous fact. You could also type in an offset without the equal sign of A1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is an offset of cell A1, 2 rows down, 3 columns to the right in a shape of 4 by 5, and that's that. Now, in this formula, I'm using a function, a range name called above. So I'm going to show you something called above, the definition. Go to formulas, the name manager, I look at above, and it says equal exclamation F4. Well, I'm in F5 now. Exclamation F4 is a relative reference to the cell above. The exclamation in there makes it available on every sheet. It doesn't, if I didn't put the exclamation mark in, if I left it out, when I click close or I click OK and the check mark, it will append the sheet name, which means it's only available to this sheet. I'm going to cancel out of it, but oops, close. Don't want to do that. I think I just messed it up. Above, yeah, I don't want that. I want exclamation F4. So now it's available on any sheet. That's pretty cool. But it's a relative reference to the cell above. So, and here I have sum of H1 to H4. If I insert a row, this still says A1 to above, which means if I put something in here, it will include it. This still says H1 to H4. So it looks like if I put something in here, it will not include it. However, watch this. I'll put in a 5. And of course, I get the 15, A1 to above. This still says H1 to H4. I put a 5 in here, and it changes the formula, H1 to H5. So either way. Text box. You've seen text boxes before, but did you ever see it with multiple columns? When I make a text box, if I do Control-1, and I go to this format shape, go to text options, and on this one, the text box, get this out of the way. I have columns, a button here. Click on it, and I can change that to, let's say, a 4. Make it 4 columns and put a ½ inch between each one. Boom. Okay, moving on. Close this. How to. Here I have a bunch of data that happens to have something and a colon. And I have my task is to remove everything before the colon, including the space afterwards. The test1 colon space, this should wind up just saying do this. And this last one should just wind up saying the final item. So I'm going to show you 4 ways to do it. First one is by a formula. Using a formula, I need to find out where is that colon. Equals find. I'm finding the colon in this cell. That's a 6. If I know that's a 6, I can start with the 8. So I want to say the mid of A1, starting with where that position of the colon is, +2. and I need to go to the end, I can say 100 is big enough. And it says do this. Drag it all the way down, and I have it. What I still must do is copy paste special values on top of here. If I right mouse click the border of a range and drag it away, when I let go of the mouse, it says, it gives me a bunch of options. This one says copy here as values only. So it's done. And now I don't need that anymore. So that's by formulas, undo, undo, a whole bunch of undos. Okay, text to columns. I can select this and go to the data tab, go to text to columns, and it's delimited by a colon. Next, and other, type in a colon, and then I can go next. And I can actually do not import this column, just skip. So I'll only have do this, etc. But there's a little problem with it. Let's go back to general, leave it. And I'm going to put it in A3, that's fine. I click finish, and I have my result, except notice there's a leading space. So I have to do some more work. I have to do the mid of this, comma 2, to get the first character in here, and then drag it back to the left. That's a little bit of work. Flash fill, that's a great one. Do this. Flash fill gives you, you type in a sample of what you want. And then flash fill is in a couple of places. One is on the home tab, there's fill, there's flash fill. Automatically fill in values. Enter a couple of examples you want as output. Keep the active cell in the column you want filled in. Watch, all done. All I have to do is cut and paste it on top of that. Flash fill is great. Let's replace. I select this, and I do Control H, which is replace. My Control H just didn't work, so let's do it here and do replace. But what am I replacing? I'm replacing everything, wildcard, and a colon, and a space, with nothing. Replace all, and well done. So again, that was replace everything. That's what the wildcard is. That had with a colon and a space. And don't replace it, just remove it. Okay, next. The order of a range all. So there's a live demo. Do I have anything else open? No. So I'm going to open a couple of new workbooks. New, that'll do. And if I go to view arrange all, tiled, the active one is always top left. So if, let me just double check that. If I click on this and do view arrange all, going to see. Okay, so it's the top left one. But what determines the order of the rest of them? So I will show that. Supposing I want this one to be the top left, I'm going to just give it a number. And I want this one to be on the, the next one, 2. And I want this one, live demo, to say 3. And let's say here's 4. So I'm putting the number in. And all I have to do to make sure it's in the sequence I want is just click in the order I want them backwards. So I'm clicking 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now I do arrange all. Tiled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's pretty cool. I'm not going to save that. I'm not going to save that. Close that. Close that. And maximize that. Okay, we move on. All the characters in the font set. So this whole thing, aside from row 1, this is all Arial, this is all Century, etc. Wingdings and Webdings. If I scroll down, you'll see the characters you're familiar with, and some perhaps not. Let's say you want to type a euro symbol or pound sterling. Here's the euro symbol here. Well, that's pound sterling. Euro is wherever it is. I can't find it now. Here it is, 128. If you know some symbols that you often use and you don't know how to type it, you can put in, and oh, sorry, everything in here is just char of row, equals char of row, all of them say char of row, the character of the row of it. So this is a character 128. So if I click in here and do char 128, I get the euro symbol. But there's a way of typing these characters directly. So assuming you have a numeric keypad, and if you don't, you could use the numbers on the keyboard around the M and J and K, you can use those numbers. But you can't use the numbers on top of the top row. So let's say I want to do a euro symbol. What I do is I click, of course, where I want it to be, and I type 0 and the row number, 0128. But I type it holding down the Alt key. So I'm now pressing the Alt key. I'm doing 0128. Nothing happens. When I let go of the Alt key, there's the euro symbol. Degrees, Alt, 0176. Let go. There's the degree symbol. So you learn or memorize or post this near, near your computer. Let's say you need to put in a section mark, 167. Alt, 0167. Let go. There it is. So that's kind of fun to know. Also, to make a bullet, you can just use Alt 7 on the numeric keypad. Alt 7 is a bullet. Alt 3456 gives you the cards from a deck. I colored them afterwards. If I just do Alt 3, I will get a black heart, etc. But then I colored them. I'm not going to go over that check mark. Okay, here's another for later, Bob. Has 2's in it. Distribute. Let's look at those. Okay, if I have a number here and I want to evenly space numbers in here so that I wind up at 554, there's a formula that can let you know what's the number you need to add. And it's C15 minus C1, the values, the difference, divided by the number of rows in there. There's 14 different rows. And I get this. So I could do equals the cell above plus that number, and that would have to be locked in, which is here, C1 plus E2. And if I drag that all the way down, it goes out that far. If I drag it one more, I should get exactly, oops, let's start from the beginning. Do that all the way down to 554. Why is that changing? Five equals this plus this is 554. Okay, not sure what happened there. Much easier way to do it. Let Excel do it for you. Select this range. Then go on the Home tab, you go to Fill Series, and it's filled in for you. Look. If I change this, let's say I move this to here. This is the right number now, but if I just select these and go to Fill Series, look, same number. Okay, that's that true. Files, etc. This, if you have Excel 2019 or later, the one with the dynamic arrays, you can do something like this. I have equals FL, it's the defined name. If I take off the leading quote, just FL gives me all the files in the current directory. So if I do file open, these are the files you'll see. Browse. Oh, come on. Go back. I don't remember where these are, but it's the current directory. If I only want Excel files, I have a name range called FLX. And there's only 2 Excel files in here. Why did that make a liar? Oh, that's better. Okay. Let me get rid of that one again. Put in this single quote. This is more what I was expecting because that's the current directory. Browse. That's just Excel files. If I look at all files, this list adding comment to a formula doc is what's being shown here. So what in the world is the definition of FL? If I go to formulas, name manager, and look at FL, FL is a transpose of files. FILES, open and close parenthesis. Transpose, open, files, open, close, close. That's all there is to it. Without transpose, this would wind up going across one row, not very useful to work with. FLX, let's take a look at that. FLX is transpose of files, but in here I have quote star.xl star quote as a filter. There's also a way to get something called tab names. In this workbook, what are the names of all the tabs? And here it is. But why is it sorted? So let me show you the definition of tab names. Before I do that, I want to show you something called vanilla. Still, that doesn't make sense. Oh, transpose of vanilla. That give me the names of every tab and the workbook name, but every tab. Of course, they're the same size. So the one that has tab names is a little bit more interesting. If I drag down to tab names, it's a long thing. So let's take a first look at vanilla. Vanilla is something called get workbook 1. It's from Excel 4 macros, old. And get workbook 1 cannot be used in a worksheet. It has to be only used as a defined name, like I'm using it here, or on an Excel macro sheet, which you can insert, which I'm not going to get into. But with get workbook 1, you get this. And if I use tab names, notice there's a get workbook 1 in here. And what I'm doing is I'm finding the right bracket, and I'm taking the middle of that, and I'm transposing it and sorting it to get all of them sorted this way. I'm clear you're not going to remember all this, but this is being recorded and you can play it back. This one goes on beyond that. Here's a table of contents. I take off the X and I get something like the vanilla. This one is the wonderful one. I'm going to make use of it. Table of contents 2. I really wanted to call it TOC2, but that's a range name, valid cell reference. So I called it TOC2, and I have all this. Let me show a quick reference to TOC2. This one is very useful, not just cool. It's a hyperlink and blah, 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 which I wound up showing in this column. Let me unhide. So it is this formula. So that get workbook 1, etc. I have a hyperlink in there. And I'm going to show you take advantage of that. So this is to make a table of contents if you have a large workbook. So I can just use that name, put it in here. And first thing I'm going to do is copy paste special values. So I'm dragging away. These are all values. And then I'm going to change master tnt.xlsm to a £. Why? You'll see in a moment. Taking that and I'm copying it. I'm doing a replace. I'm replacing that with the £. Replace all. And now these are all hyperlinks. You can see the hand change. So let's go to custom list. I click on that and I'm on a tab called custom list. To get back from a hyperlink, Alt left arrow will take you right back. So how to, click on that, and we're at this one, Alt left arrow. So that's great, fairly simple way, a little bit involved way, but fairly simple to get a table of contents for your whole workbook. Let me, on the interest of time, I'm going to skip mirror because that's just a little silly. Enter totals. Suppose here I have a total of the cells above, nothing special. Total of percents. I want to total this, not this, not this, etc. And after all that's done, I have Jan and percent, Feb percent, March percent, quarter. So a little bit not this is not April %. I have a change. If I wanted to drag, if I make this selection and use the fill handle and drag out to the right, I'm getting every other one fine, but I wound up then not doing it. I want to get April again. So I'm going to undo that. What I do is I go up to the Q1, which is now perfect. And starting from here, I can replicate this pattern and drag all the way to the end. And I get the numbers where I want them. Okay, change the row height. So this is not very big, only goes down to row 52. I have the accounting department and the personnel department and the IS department, whatever that is. What I want to do, and pretend obviously it's easy enough to do on this short list, but I want to, wherever there's a break in department, I want to increase the row height. So that on a printout, let's go back to here, I want a visual space in here. So it looks better. Well, here's one way to do it. I'm going to start in B3. I mean, I really could start here, but in general, I would start in B3 because that's the first possible new department. So I can say if the previous department is not equal to this department, then, and I'm going to choose one of 4 options here. I'll explain them in a minute. I'm going to do 1, comma, quote, quote. And then I'm going to double click the fill handle and you see a 1 whenever there's a new department. Now, why did I pick those? Well, when I do a go to special, when I click either formulas or constants, I get these 4 possibilities. It's either a number, a text, or a logical or an error. I just happen to pick the first 2. I picked numbers, 1, text. Quote, quote is text. I didn't put any logical and errors. But if I now say, pick only the numbers, deselect text, I have all the numbers highlighted. And at this point, on the Home tab, I go to Format, Row Height, and let's make it like 30. Click OK. And no matter how big this is, I have them, I'm going to delete this. I have it so that when it's printed, you have a visual space. Could have used any combination, not just one numbers and text. Double space. Okay, I have lots of stuff here. It goes from row 1 to row 850. Lots of stuff. What I want to do is physically put a new row between each row. That is, I effectively want to do this. I'm doing Control plus, Control plus, Control plus 850 times, but I don't want to do that. You could write a macro to do that, but that macro would actually run for a little while too after you debug it. So I've come up with a way that manually I can insert this. I could do that in under 7 seconds, but that would not be instructive, so I'm not going to. What I'm first going to do is number these. I'm going to put the numbers 1 through 850 in here. I could do it by 1. Most people do 1 and put in the 2, select them both and double click, right? And it goes down to 850. I'm going to undo that. The reason they do a 1 and a 2 is because if I only do 1, it gives me all 1s. But here's the first separate trick. If I select that, just put in a 1 and make that selection, then the fill handle will increment it. So I now go from 1 to 850, Control copy, Control down arrow, down 1 space and paste. Oops, how did that happen? Let's start that again. I'm going to undo and start all over. From 1, double click, copy, Control down arrow, go here, paste. That's better. Okay, so I now have numbers 1 to 850 again, right? But all these numbers have a blank next to them. And the ones above don't. So if I click anywhere in column E and I go to data and sort, I'm done. Sorted the blank lines into place. Get rid of column E. Moving on. Here's another Bob threes, bunch of threes. If you ever had a need to reopen a workbook, like if you have a major application in which people enter data and you store the data separately from the workbook, so the data in a data file that's separate from the workbook. It's a big application, perhaps. In order to start fresh, ideally you'd be able to reopen the workbook, but you can't open it. The workbook can't reopen itself. I'll prove that by making these cells yellow. And then I'm going to open, the current folder is here. This is the name of the file, and I'm going to open, and nothing happened because a workbook won't open itself, even if I did it in VBA. But watch this, reopen myself. Done. I got it using a macro to reopen itself. Just want to show you the code. For those of you who know VBA, I have a new computer, relatively new, and there's some bug in it in which I cannot make this any bigger, and I know how to. So I apologize for the small font. Okay, so that was not it. Reopen myself. Oh, here it is. It's reopen me. It says on time now, go to reop. So when this macro is done, run reopen, and then close this workbook without saving it. Now the workbook is closed, but this command is sitting in memory somewhere. And when the workbook is closed, this is going to kick in to run reopen. And it's sitting in memory. So reopen, in order to run, it has to open the workbook. So it has to open the workbook, and then it activates this workbook in case something else is open. And then I go back and select the current sheet, the sheet that macro was on. It's kind of cool. So every input cell was refreshed. Okay, here we're going to take advantage of now, take a look at these 1s, 2s, and 3s that we had before. In this green cell, I have a comment that says equals the sum of star, Bob, star, exclamation, A1 to B2. That is A1 to B2, that section. I'm adding them all up. If I take off the leading apostrophe, this function, this sum formula is actually going to change. It's not going to add them up like it is, but it'll take any workbook tab, worksheet tab, that has the word Bob in it. And look, there's Bob later 1, 4 later Bob, another Bob, and adds them all up. It actually changed that. I think it's pretty cool. This out of the way again. Okay, there's a short one. Instead of typing 1 million this way or a billion, type 1E6. Just plain old 1E6. And if it's formatted as number or integer or general even, it'll put in the right number of zeros. Or 1E12, so type these big numbers. All right, Format Painter. I'm assuming you all know the Format Painter. So if this is an arrow I have and I happen to have this somewhere, I want to make this one to look like that as far as the design, I can use the Format Painter and just click on it and it'll change it and pick it up. Comments, now known as notes. It used to be not comments. You probably don't see them like that much or like that. And I want to show you how to make a comment up here like that. So I'm going to start off with a bare bones comment. I do review, and I don't want to do comment because I now know I want to do notes. Notes, new note. That's what used to be a comment used to look like. I'm going to format this in some crazy way. So in order to do that, I can't have the cursor blinking inside of it. I have to be on the border. So I've selected the border of the comment, comment 4. I then go to Control 1, which brings up the Format Comment dialog. On the colors and lines, if I click on that and go down to Fill Effects, I get 4 tabs. I can have it gradient fill, or I can get a picture. If I select the picture, I can even browse Bing. Let's search Bing for computer. Computer, click OK, and pick this guy, insert. And there it is, OK. OK, and there it is. That's pretty cool. Now I've changed, that changes the image. What about the shape? To do that, I have to have a quick access toolbar access to shape tool. So here, that's the quick print. Where is my shape? Is there more? Oh, I guess I don't have it on this. This is a new computer. So let me show you. Oh, here it is. No, it is here. I have to click on the, go back to notes, edit the note, click on the border, and then I have this. I had it here. This one, change shape. In order to get the change shape, I have to right mouse click someplace along here and go to customize quick access toolbar. I have to go from popular commands to all commands and then drag down to change shape. You'll find it in here someplace. Change shape. There it is. I already have it. And when you have it on your quick access toolbar, I can then pick another shape. I'll pick a star. And that's how you do it. Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with locking in the format painter. If I use the format painter and click over here, it does it, but doesn't do it again. To lock it, I can double click the format painter. Oops, let me undo that. I want to select that first, double click it, and then it works like that. To get it out, notice that the paintbrush is attached to the cursor. I'm hitting the escape tool. Sometimes you want to bring a selection to the top left cell, make it easier to work with, right? So you scroll a little and scroll some more and just to get it right, etc. Well, there's a way to get this. I'm going to use a go-to command. I put in Z, go to Z, click OK, brings it to the top left. Here's some more stuff. I'm going to go to, notice I'm at cell U24. I go to Z, click OK, and U24 is the top left. The definition of Z, name manager. The Z is not significant, but just any one letter. I have it this, rather than explain that, I'm going to go cell A1, and because it's easier to define from A1. From A1, this works in any workbook, any worksheet, so I start with a leading exclamation mark. And I did A1 to Z100, just large enough for it to not fit the screen, beyond the screen. So I just use A1 to Z100, and if I were in B2, go back there to Z, you would see it be B2 to AA 101. So if I'm here and I do a name manager, Z from there is I8, the active cell, to AH 107. So when I go to Z, it's trying to go to AA to 107, it just can't fit it all. So it brings it to the top left. Okay, I'm looking at the time, so I want to make sure I get some good ones. Merge. So I have A1 to E1 merge. I have A2 to E2 merge, etc. A43 to E43 merge, all the way down to row 100. But 101 is not. But how did I do that? Did I merge the 100 times? No. I'll do it here. Make this sample. I'm going to merge each one of these. Very simply, I go to the Home tab where it says Merge and Center is a drop-down, do Merge Across, and it does exactly that. Okay. Again, some of you write macros. Sometimes your macro runs for a while and you give a message to the user at the bottom left. You put something in the status bar that says, please wait, or something. And even though it's right and it looks good, people don't notice it. It's too small. So what about something like this? I'm going to click wait. That's kind of obvious now. So what I've written was I put on a ribbon that just has that command in it, and this simulates it for 5 seconds only, and after 5 seconds it closes the ribbon. Everything's back to normal. I also have that ribbon be that if the macro bombs and you're left with please wait, any one of them will close the ribbon file. So just a very quick thing for the macro. All this does is on time now plus 5 seconds, I go wait no longer, and wait no longer closes the ribbon file. That's all there is to it. After that, I make sure I'm finding it in the right path, and I open the macro file. Now I wouldn't always do it for 5 seconds. At the end of the macro, I would, when the macro starts, I would open it up. When the macro ends, I would just close it. Okay. A couple of cool ones. Shouldn't miss these. Supposing you have a bunch of names, addresses, etc., and you need to sort them. I'm going to sort them by last name. Last name is what's in there first. It's last name, comma, first. I thought it would be a lot harder. But obviously, if I sort these now, if I go to data and sort them, I just get a mess. It's very useless. I want to keep these together as a block. So here's the technique I came up with. I insert a row, and in cell B1, I'm saying equals if all above and to the left is blank. Then I know I'm starting a new group. So I'm picking up the top line of that new group. But if it's not a new group, then I want to pick up what I've already picked up. That would normally be the cell above. Here now. But if I double click this or drag this down one cell below there, it makes a lot more sense. So this one is John Jones because the cell above is blank. Let me just use the format painter here. So this is the one above and to the left is blank, so I pick up the guy to the left. Here, the one above and to the left is not blank, so I pick up the cell above. And it keeps on going that way. This one is cell above and to the left is blank, picks up the one to the left, otherwise it picks up the one above. Anyway, now that that's the case, I can sort here and get rid of it. Done. Use the sorter by last name. Let's take a look at here. I want to change these to name one, address one, city, state, zip one. Right? And this goes down to 30 named addresses. So I might try, well, let's do equals A1. And then below that I want equals B1. And below that I want equals C1. And I want to include the pattern to have a blank afterwards. Looks like, what's the big deal? Drag that down. But what happened to name 2 and 3 and 4? Didn't do it right. Got the right idea, but it skipped them. So instead of equals A1, etc., I'm going to put in XA1, not equals XA1, just XA1, XB1, XC1. Include the blank. Drag it down. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Replace X with equals. Replace all. I didn't go down far enough, but just to show you the technique. Moving right along, more mailing labels. Suppose I have it like this, and I want to make it like this. So I could try the same technique. This is A1, this says A2, this says A3, and now this says A5, A6, A7. Looks like it should work, and I get a total mess. And the X thing comes in handy. If I do XA1, XA2, XA3, XA5, XA6, XA7, and now use the fill handle. You can see it's repeating the right pattern. XA9 is the next correct one, and then again I replace X with equals. Now here's something, if you have the latest and greatest, you have array, dynamic arrays, unhide. You can do it in one statement with the sequence function. Now, I'm doing the index of A. The sequence of, I use 160 over 4 only because this goes down to row 160. 160 includes that last pattern, the blank. So index of index of sequence 160 over 4, and then I want in 4 columns, including the blank. If I take away that leading quote, it's all done. Okay. Still writing down. All right. Here I have text, and what I want is to make it go across to the right. So let me just wipe this out. I want to reference A1 and drag it to the right to get the A2, A3, etc. So if I drag that, I'm getting A1, B1, C1, etc. That's not what I want. I want A1, A2, A3, but filled to the right. Again, that X routine comes in handy. XA1, and I drag it to the right, and I have XA8. I change X to equals, and I'm going to get what I want. But I'm going to change that to values only. Supposing I'm starting with that, and I want to go down. So I have, here's the information. I want to refer to B1, if I do XB1, and then C1. You can tell if that's not going to change a C to a D and so on. That's not going to work. So the X technique doesn't work here, but I'm going to show you a technique that does work. It's a little bit more involved, but it's kind of cool. I mean, granted, I can use transpose, but I want to just, step outside the box. So I'm going to do it in R1, C1 notation. So row 1, column 2 is where here's. And then if I just use the fill handle, notice I get row 1, column 3, row 1, column 4, etc. I get what I want. But I can't change an R to an equals R because it's valid. So it doesn't like that. But what I can do is I can go to the File, Options, and under Formulas, click this, make it row 1, column 1 reference style. That is. Okay. And now I can change R to equals R. Change R to equals R. And replace all. What did I do? R, an extra character in there. I went too far. That's not an issue. And there it is. And then I go back to File Options and take off the check mark. Formulas. Take it off. And what's in here now is I'm going to do Control tilde as a toggle to show formulas. So that's what happened there. Okay. So I'm going to keep going. Let's look at it. I don't want to do that. It's a little too advanced. Control 6, by the way, not F6, just all plain old Control 6, hides and shows objects. The toggle. What's this? There's a sea creature. What is it? It's calamari. Calamari. Never mind. Ignore my humor. Skipping around. Filling holes. Supposing I have data that comes across and looks something like this, and I need to sort it by state. Now I'm in the US, so I'm going to do states, but the technique will work anywhere. So if I sort this by state, let's just do sort. It's total mess. And I want to be region within state. Obviously, I would need to fill this down and fill this down and fill this down. And this is not that terrible, it only goes down to row 99, but it's still an annoying task. So before I show you the solution, I want to also show you something else because it's related. If I have multiple selection and I enter something, if I do Control Enter, it'll enter it in every cell. If I do equal the cell above +1, Control Enter, every one of them is the cell above +1. Okay, I'm going to take advantage of that by going here, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to do a go to special and select all the blanks. Okay, all the blanks are selected. While it's here, I'm going to just do an equal up arrow to relative reference to the cell above. Control Enter. It's now ready for sorting. So I come here, I do data sort. I'm going to sort by state, add a level, sort by region, click OK. It's now sorted the way I want. I go back to the Home tab, go to Find and select Find Formulas. I'm going to delete, and it's back to the syntax it was in the beginning, and I'm done. Okay, only unique. So this list can contain only unique values. Instead of just being numbers like that, you can pretend they were employee numbers or some other ID that only can appear once. If I type in a 7, it's a fine. If I type in a 2, unique values only. That's done by data validation. So let me show you the data validation for this. Go to data, click on validation, and I have the COUNTIF formula. The COUNTIF all of column D for the active cell, I'm allowing the number 1. And I have an error alert, unique values only, if it's invalid data. The COUNTIF, I will put it in here so you can see it, equal the COUNTIF all of column D for the active cell, or for that cell, and you'll see these are all 1s. If I use the same formula here, oops, let's do it here, equals COUNTIF, range is that, comma A1, and fill that down. You can see that only this number 3 is unique. These are already counting how many 2s there are. There's 3 1s, there's 5 2s, there's 1 3. So I'm allowing 1. That's how that works. Now here's something else about data validation that perhaps you didn't know. Supposing I do want to take advantage of that and I want to apply that rule or restriction to column A. So I'm going to select column A, I do data validation, I'm doing a custom, and I'm putting in the formula equals COUNTIF, all of A, comma, the active cell is A1. I'm allowing that. Click OK. Well, nothing happened. But I can't even re-enter the 4. It's there already, but hello. Make sure I got it right. COUNTIF. That should give me an error. I'm going to type the number 4, enter it. That's weird. How about down here? That's weird. It's allowing it. It shouldn't. COUNTIF A 12. Error alert. Stop. This is a little buggy. This never happened before. What I wanted to point out, though, you can do circle invalid data. It's not doing that. How strange. I apologize. Just spend another second here.
Dan is saying to put the $sign.
No.
The second.
Not needed. I want it to be relative. Notice that this one, no $sign.
Not sure what he meant.
Sorry?
Not sure what he meant with the $. So dollar will fix the column or row.
Right,
yeah,
but it's not needed here. count. I'm in column A. I'm referring on a column A.
Equals 1.
Sorry.
Equals 1 is missing.
Oh,
Equals 1.
There we go. Equals 1. Thank you.
Okay.
That's what I'm allowing. Okay. So now I can't
you.
re-enter the 4. I get this message. Thank you. And then I wanted to point out circle invalid data. Come on. There it is. It's circled. Now these data validation circles, there's nothing you can do with them. I can't select them. I can't, they won't print. I'll do a print preview here. They don't show up. They're only for you to look at and make the corrections. When you're done, you can go back. If you know, you can either make the corrections and they'll disappear as you make them, or I can do clear validation circles. That's what I want to point out. Thank you. Sorry, that took extra time. Skip blanks. I have letters A, B, C, D, E, F in this weird fashion. If I select this and I copy and I want to put it in here, I wiped out what was there before. But if I make that copy and I click in here and I do paste special, there's a checkbox for skip blanks. This means skip the blanks in the source range. Click OK and I get that. Okay, still going strong. Text to columns. You probably all know about text to columns, but there's a couple of little glitches in here. So this is date format. You can't format this to make it any date that makes sense. Now in the US, it's year, month, day. That's what I have here instead of anything else. I want to do text to columns in here. Go to data and I do text to columns. And it doesn't matter whether I click delimited or fixed width because that's not applicable. I'll just do next. And I do next again, but here I can tell it that it's a date and I can tell it what the form of that date is. In this case, I have year, month, day. And then I just click finish and it makes real dates out of those. Let me undo that so I can put the dates in another column. I'll put it next to it, B1. Year, month, day, finish. This is simple, text to columns, it's delimited by a space. Finish, that works. But what about this? The first thing is, this is a little weird. Look, I click on this, it says is, but up here it says now. This is very strange. Try that again, click on it. It says now in the formula bar, it says here, it is there. On the home tab, if I format it to scroll to the top, it says now. At the bottom, for some reason, it says is. But what's really in here is that. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party. That's what's in there. And if it's formatted with scroll to the bottom, I guess that's what you get. But how do I do a text to columns to spread that out? So I do data, text to columns. It is delimited, but what's it delimited by? It's not a space, it's not a tab. If it's an other, what is it? How do I put on a new line? Actually, I do Control J. You can see it handled it fine. I don't see any character in here except a blinking dot if you look carefully. I don't remember how I learned about it being a Control J, but that's exactly what it does. Okay, a piece of trivia, change this name to history. There's a trailing blank at the end. History for a tab name is a reserved word. Just a random fact. Find backwards. Oops. Find backwards. Here I have accounting. I'm trying to find the last accounting department. I can do it by finding backwards, but how do you find backwards? There's the find. If I find ACCTG, find next, of course, finds forward. But look, I'm holding the shift key down. Find next finds backwards. And so from here, finding backwards finds the last one. 1200 and change. Okay, wildcards. the formula in here is one formula, dragged all the way down. And yet, this is taking the total, the percent that this is of this total. And this is taking the percent that this number is of this total. So how do I get it to stay in its section? And let's take a look at the formula equals formula text. Make it a little bigger. Okay, it's B2, this number, divided by, obviously I want to divide it by 9625, divided by, and here's the cool part, the index of column B, all of column B, match asterisk total. So anything that ends in the word total. And where I'm looking for the total is in the offset of A2, 0 rows down, 0 columns over in the shape of 1,000 by 1. So I'm looking at the next 1,000 rows, looking for something that has the word total in it, plus the row that I'm in, minus 1. Now that's a pretty big row to hoe, or bite to chew, that's an expression. So let me just take a look at equals the row that I'm in, minus 1. And that's a 1, and it goes all the way down, and it keeps going. Now, I invented this before I learned about the dynamic array sequence function. So this works anyway. So if I just take this part of it, match total, or total, in the offset of A2, I don't know what happened there, offset of A2, 0, 0, 1,000 by 1. Let's leave off the other, comma 0. So that says total, it's finding the word total 19 rows down. And if I drag that down a little bit, depending on where I am, that's 14 rows down. All the way down to here, it's 1 row down. It's finding it in the same row. And if I go one further, it starts again, 9 more rows down to get to that total. So plus the row 1, that says 20. Oops. Oh yeah, so it stays in 20. So each one of these says 20 rows down is where I need to go, or it's in row 20. So the index of B for row 20, that's what happened when I added in the row and subtracted 1. And then this 29 stays 29 all the way, and then 62 is for way down here, and so on. It's a wonderful formula. Okay, let me just see if there's any real cool ones I want to make sure I handle. There's just so many things. But I should probably take some questions. So Christian, are there questions?
Well, there was only one question that was answered by the other attendees, and a lot of amazed people with a lot of very cool comments. I'll show them to you.
Yes, I'd love to see them. All right, so I'll just keep going. Let me jump way ahead here on dynamic array. So these two things in here, so I'm not going to click on, I'll just recalculate, are a random arrangement of numbers 1 through 9 in a 3x3 grid without repeating. So if I just go to formulas and recalculate, you see everything's changing except column F. But even though it's random, it'll still give me a 3x3. So here's how I did it. This is just the numbers 1 through 9. Sequence 9 is the numbers 1 through 9. Rand array 9 is a random arrangement of numbers 1 through 9. This says an index of sort by. The sort by is one of the new dynamic arrays, and I'm sorting by F1 pound sign. By the way, F1 pound sign, I haven't tried this before, should select the spill range of the formula in row F, in cell F1, sequence 9. And if I do G1 pound sign. It's the spill range of the formula there. So this is the sort by. I'm sorting F1 pound sign, numbers 1 through 9, by G1 pound sign. So even though these are random numbers, I'm sorting the numbers in here by the random numbers. So it's a random numbers arrangement. And then I'm doing the index of that. A sequence of 3 by 3 gives me an arrange is equals 3, 3. Gives me the numbers 1 through 9, but always 1 through 9. This is random numbers 1 through 9. But this way requires me to put in this extra bunch of cells. The bottom one here does it all in one. The index of the sort by sequence 9 round array 9, sequence 3, 3. So I only need this one formula to get a 3 by 3 array. If I want 4 by 4, I make 16, 16, 4 by 4. The numbers 1 through 15 in random sequence. Okay, last one. This is just really cool. So here I have a bunch of data. And I picked out Barnes. It's one of these things. Let's look at atoms. I'm going to pick up atoms here. And I get all atoms. And I don't know if you noticed the total line moved down. And it's colored. And atoms is like the second atoms is 819, and here's 819. And there's all the data in it. Let's try Kelly. I'm going to type in Kelly. Total line moved. Now, how is that possible? Oh, we're about to see. I don't know if you noticed that a bunch of columns are hidden in here. So let me unhide them. And double click that. Okay. So starting in H2, oh, I'm sorry, in I, there's a function called filter. And I'm filtering table 13. That's the stuff in A through F, table 13, all the orange cells. I'm filtering that where the agent in table 13, that's a table, so I get the table notation. The agent, column A, is equal to U1, Kelly. Otherwise, I'm going to get a no match. So if I put in that, I just get no match, no match. Let's go back to Randolph. Okay, so make this a little wider. So this handles all that. That's the spill range for this function. I'm filtering it by what's in U1. Here, I'm doing the sequence by the number of rows that are in the spill range of I3. I3 pound sign is the spill range of I3. How many rows are in there? It's 7. So it gives me the numbers 1 through 7. Here, I have the rows of I3 pound sign plus 1. So that's 8. So if I chose another number, it might be 1 through 10, and then this would be 11. This just has the word total. And this has the sum of the offset of N3, which is the cell below, for the next 1,000 rows. I could have done count how many numbers in the spill range, but I used 1,000. Okay, so that's that part. This part is a sort by. I'm doing a sort by, and this is still strange to me why it has to be this way, but I'm sorting by I3 pound sign, which is this. I'm sorting that through I2. That doesn't look like it makes sense. I should say I2 to I3 pound sign, but it doesn't like that. So I3 pound sign to I2 is what it's sorting by. And that's the range I'm sorting. I'm sorting by H3 to H2. H3 pound sign is 1 to 7 and the 8. So the total goes to the bottom because of this. I'm sorting this by this. No, I'm sorting this actually. I3 to I2 includes total, but by these. So that puts total at the bottom. Turns out I have, if I go here and do final select conditional formatting, that's conditionally formatted. What is it formatted to be? Manage the rules. If $Q3, that means relative, always a column Q, but relative row. When it says total, make it blue. So wherever it put the word total, because it sorted it into place, it'll be blue. You can reach me at bobalmus@hotmail.com for any question on anything. That's my cell phone. You can find my books by typing Umlas into Amazon.com. I don't know what happens for Romania. This is my latest that I'm proud of. Cool Excel. And this is for people who just don't understand Excel whatsoever, and they've tried and tried and tried. It's currently a Kindle book, but we're trying to get it published. And I do have a little more, but I think that's all I want to cover. Let's see. I'll take it right to the end. How about aligning objects? So how do I align these? I can select them all. Control click on the shape format. There's an alignment thing, and I could align the left. I could align the center. If this last one was down here, and I wanted to make them be equally spaced under a line, I can do distribute vertically, and that's evenly spaced vertically. Or if I do this, go back to align, distribute horizontally, so they're evenly set that way. Adding time, you probably know this, but if I have a bunch of time here and I add them up, the sum of B1 to B5, this says the sum of B1 to B5 also. This is clearly wrong. All these hours can out of the 2. You can see what happened because it went beyond 24 hours, and normally time rewraps after 24. So this is just special formatting. Put the H in square brackets, and that gives it goes beyond 24 hours. How about this one? Automatic numbering questions. So I have a bunch of questions in here, obviously. And if I decide I don't want question 3, I decide I don't want it, I'm going to do Control minus to get rid of it. And the numbers renumber themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's get rid of this one. Let's get rid of these, both of them. I don't want those questions. Get rid of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the formula in here is the maximum value of A1, 1 is fixed into 1, solid, from A1 to A10, which is a relative reference to the cell above. What's the largest number here? Well, it's 2. Plus 1 is 3. If I undo a bunch of these, down here, max from A1 to A19 is a 4, plus 1 is 5. So when I get rid of the numbers, they readjust. Okay, this one's kind of cool. If I want to put in, again, I'm month, day, year, so bear with me. I have 1/1/2010 and 1/15/2010. If I drag down, I don't get the 1st and the 15th of each month. If I right mouse click and drag down, I can say fill months. But this is a little weird. If I right mouse click and fill down here, fill months, not every month has 31 days. Managed to fix that part, but why did it give me 7/16? or 1016. That's a little weird. Another way to do it, and this is my last tip, I make this selection. I tap the first 2 months, make that selection. I drag down to row 24, and I get the first of each month. And then I'm going to go to special blanks, and I type equal the cell above plus 14, Control Enter, and that worked fine. Okay, I'm done. What happened to my?
Thank you, Bob. It was an amazing session, and probably most of us will have to rewatch it. As I've told you, I saw it before, and I'm still picking up something, and something are just like new to me. So it was really great. We have, as I told you, we have one question.
Okay.
How to combine many Excel files in a folder, let's say 50 files, which arrive on a daily basis in that folder. Each file contains 5 columns with the same head names. Each file contains date, month, year at the end. Hard mismatch. I want the fastest way to do it. What's your opinion on this? Because
I would try Power Query. I think it kind of has a built-in feature to do that. But I'm not a Power Query expert, so I can't just demo it. But
yeah,
there's a way to get.
Same answer came from some of the guys in the audience, and others just said VBA and something else. So it depends on the tool.
Yeah, if you don't want to use Power Query, I would use VBA, and it should not be a hard thing to do. You know, if you need to do it in VBA and don't know how, feel free to email me, and I will give you the solution.
Okay, and let's see some really cool comments that we had during the call.
Okay.
The second one, does flash fill feature is there in Power BI? And
No.
three of our attendees said that no, it's not there, but you can accomplish it mostly with Power Query. And the other ones are just comments, really cool comments that I found during the session. Most of them are just wow, and we thought we knew Excel. Well,
oh, that's great.
Everybody's still learning. And there are two more. One from Rajari. You made your point, Bob. I now know your book title pretty well.
Okay.
And another one from Andrea. I was waiting for the new Spider movie to get a reality-shattering experience, but I'm pretty sure Doctor Strange has nothing to do with this session.
Thank you, Andrea.
And another one that just came in, you should see it in the chat. Bob is my idol.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
It was a great session, and thanks again for taking the time to come and present to our user group.
Sure. Please send me the chat.
I will.
Great.
And we still have 5 more minutes to run the raffle, and then we'll stop the recording. And if anybody wants, we can stay a little bit more and unmute and turn on the camera so we can have a more relaxed discussion. So let's see how many participants finally in the raffle, and refresh the file. 20 participants. Okay. The actual raffle is done using the Power Platform tools. Actually, I'm using the form to collect the data. I'm having a Power Automate, a flow to collect all the data and put it in a SharePoint list. And then connecting with this Power BI report to that SharePoint list and adding, this is a Power App inside Power BI. running another flow to get a random number out of the participants. So this is how we'll do it. Just refresh it to make sure we are on and extract 3 winners. I hope it will work. So let's choose the first one. Choose the random. Faraz! Faraz is the first winner. Congratulations, Faraz. Let's refresh it. So we have the winner name up here in the list and prepare for another draw. Let's choose another winner. Choose the random winner. Florin. Florin Tirt is the second winner. So congratulations, Florin. Refresh everything. And now just run the third one. Choose random winner. Esther. Congratulations, Esther. And I'll email you probably tomorrow to confirm the email address so that I can pass it to Enterprise DNA team. Thanks again, everyone, for attending this session. Thank you, Bob, for again. It was our honor to have you, and I'm
Thank you
pretty
for having
sure all the attendees will rewatch at least one time the session recording.
Great.
Thanks again, everyone, and happy holidays and happy New Year.